Hello again, this is Jason at Empower PT, and for today's boxing analysis, I'm going to go for Hagler-Hearns. The main reason being, it's considered the greatest start to a major bout in the history of boxing. Definitely one of the greatest rounds in the history of the sport. Definitely one of the greatest opening rounds in the history of the sport. I'm going to try and come at it from obviously a fan perspective. As a former boxer myself, there are little insights when you've actually been in the ring. You can kind of appreciate certain things that have happened in the bout, even though I've never fought to the level that these two men have. And as a coach, there are things I've learned as a coach that I can hopefully apply to this analysis. For those who don't know, at the time Marvin Hagler was the champion for 5 years, and I think this was his 10th defence of the title, his 11th defence of the title, and this was the first time in that time frame where people really doubted his ability to successfully defend the title. For those who don't know, Thomas Hearns was coming up from welterweight and then like middleweight, and he was finally in middleweight, and he possessed one of the most lightning right hands in the history of the sport. He belongs to that category of tall, lanky boxers that can generate leverage into their punch and really whip the rear hand over the top. Deontay Wilder belongs in that group. An old-time fighter called Bob Foster belongs in that group. So I thought I'd give this one my analysis just because it's an extremely exciting fight. So one of the things I'd like to touch upon is Marvin Hagler's ability to switch from orthodox to southpaw. There's very, very, very few fighters that can switch orthodox and southpaw and fight effectively in both stances. Marvin Hagler is one of those fighters. I personally think that he fought this particular fight pretty much in the southpaw stance, and he won, so it must have worked. What I will say is, when I've looked at some of his other bouts, Hagler has always fought better as a southpaw, in my opinion. If you watch him against Sugar Ray Leonard, he lost the first 2 rounds, clearly, in my opinion, because he fought that in the orthodox stance. It's a whole other debate. I actually felt Hagler won the Ray Leonard fight, but that's a whole other debate. If you watch his battle against John McGarvey, he kind of plays with switch hitting and generally stays in the southpaw stance. So I feel that Hagler made the right choice. Like I say, he won, so the southpaw stance definitely was a goer in his opinion. So part of the reason that this bout is considered so great is the way it started, and Hagler was the initiator. And why did Hagler start fast? Well, the principal reason is he had the reach disadvantage. He's 5'9", Thomas Hearns is 6'3", and Thomas Hearns had that lethal right hand, and Hagler had to get in close and cut the range down. Part of Hagler's strategy, and HBO have a very good documentary on this. It's about a 20-minute documentary about the story of Hagler-Hearns, so definitely worth watching, and I'll try and put a link in the description for you. Hagler's whole strategy was to cut the range down, don't let Hearns breathe, don't let him plant his feet, because for those tall, lanky boxers, as I mentioned, like Deontay Wilder, they have to plant their feet and then generate leverage for that right hand. Tyson Fury did a very good job against Deontay Wilder by stepping to him and not allowing him to get leverage for his shots. So once these guys have leverage, they can create that knockout punch. Hagler also lasted better because he set the pace. By setting the pace, he forced Hearns to fight at a higher pace than Hearns would like, and as a result, fatigue set in quite early. Potentially, that might be an explanation as to why Deontay Wilder was a lot more tired against Tyson Fury in their second bout, because Tyson Fury put it on him. And once again, as I said, if these guys don't get to plant their feet, they don't like it. So probably the most pertinent question that raises its head regarding this fight is, why did Hearns elect to fight and not to box? And well, the main reason is, despite Hearns' ability to box beautifully, and he really does box beautifully, if you watch him against Sugar Ray Leonard in the later rounds of that, he boxes on his toes. If you watch him against Wilfred Benitez, he can box to a 15-round decision, no problem. And he's a lot taller than his opponent, so his opponent finds it very difficult to get close to him. So once he elects the jab, it is a very difficult proposition. However, as we know, Hearns is an amazing knockout puncher. He's knocked out guys with what are considered to be granite chins. Pepino Cueva springs to mind. Obviously Roberto Duran. So Hearns, being a puncher, he's going to try and knock you out first. And generally, his pattern of fights generally is to try and knock them out in the first 2-3 rounds, then box if it doesn't work. So no boxer in his right mind, if he can knock someone out, is going to say, I'm going to go 12 rounds when I can get the knockout. So the other reason, and it's probably the main reason that Hearns didn't box as well, is that Hagler didn't let him. The fact is Hagler chased him round the ring, put such pressure on him, forcing Hearns to fight at a higher pace than Hearns would have liked to. Hagler did not allow Hearns to plant his feet, and for those tall, lanky boxers, as we've said, guys like Deontay Wilder, guys like Bob Foster, if you're putting pressure on them and they try to plant their feet and they can't, their punch power is less effective. And Tyson Fury probably did something pretty similar in the second fight with Deontay Wilder, where he put pressure on Wilder, not allowing Wilder to plant his feet and throw the kind of punches at distance that he would like. He manhandled him, he roughed him up. So same with Marvin Hagler, he manhandled and roughed Hearns up. And as mentioned in other videos of mine, when you're fighting at a pace higher than you would like to, so the other guy set the pace and you're reacting to it, you're not getting that breather. So you're throwing your punches and you're trying to get breath, and you're throwing punches and you're trying to get breath, but the other guy's on you, so he's not letting you get the deep breath and the rest that you would like. The lactic acid begins to build. And obviously the minute between rounds is not enough to have it suppress so you can get your breath back. So, 2 to 3 rounds, as we know this fight lasts, Hagler is on Hearns and the pace is getting to him. So if you look really closely at round 1, you'll see Hearns is actually having a lot of success with the right hand. He throws some good uppercuts and he throws some amazing straight right hands, and he is snapping Hagler's head back. And even in the first 20 seconds, you'll see that he catches Hagler early on, and in all the different versions of the fight, the commentary that I've seen, you see he has actually hurt Hagler. So obviously he's probably thinking while he's throwing this, well, I'm landing pretty well here. I'm going to have to get this guy at some point, so I'm going to keep throwing. I'm going to keep going for this knockout. He's there to be knocked out. Even though Hagler's coming forward, he is getting caught. Hagler is dipping under some of the shots. There are some where he steps forward and really gets his head jolted right back. And if you watch, and I will try and look for the link and put it in the description, if you watch the HBO version of this fight, so not the TVKO version with Al Bernstein on the commentary, but the HBO version of the fight with Sugar Ray Leonard on the commentary, in between round 1 and 2, there's a brilliant bit of replay, slow replay, which shows Hearns really catching Hagler as cleanly as you could ever catch Hagler, and his head jolting right back. So Hearns was landing, and it's testament to Marvin Hagler's granite chin that he was able to withstand the first round. Another question is, why didn't Hearns' corner convince him to box? Well, as we kept saying, Hagler was on his case. So, you're in a fight already. Sometimes you just have to gamble. And if you watch, particularly between round 1 and round 2, when you listen to the audio of the corners, Emmanuel Stewart, who to me is one of the greats, if not the greatest boxing trainer ever, he does try and convince Hearns to box. He does say to him, look, you got to slip off to one side or the other because you're getting hit on the tail end of Hagler's punches. You've got to get out of there. But he also, I think, was aware that Hearns had cracked his right hand too, so he had to say something to motivate him. And as a boxing coach, I like to think, hey, what would I do if my fighter is in dire straits as Hearns is? And sometimes you can only convince your man to box. You can only convince him to do what's necessary, even though in the back of your mind you're like, okay, he may not come out too well in this. Hopefully the other guy starts to gas out because my guy needs a bit of a breather. I'd love to say I have the magic answer to everything, but in an emergency, it's very difficult. As we've said, round 1 was hectic. The lactic acid had built. Hearns' hand was damaged. You work with what you've got, and sometimes you pray that the other guy is going to go before your guy. In this instance, Emmanuel Stewart didn't come out on top. Now, another question that pops up from time to time is, did Hearns break his hand in round 1, or is it an excuse on the Hearns camp part that, just to say this is why I lost, I broke my hand? And when I first heard about the handbrake, and I first heard of it in a very good 20-minute documentary, I may have mentioned it already, from HBO called Tale of Hagler-Hearns. And if you actually watch the fight, so you don't have to watch the documentary, if you watch the fight, the last 30 seconds of round one, where Hearns is in the corner, I'm going to try and reposition myself, Hearns is on this side in the corner, and Hagler is coming at him, and Hagler's head is right there, Hearns is throwing blistering hard shots, and he lands 2 right hands, it's either 2 or 3 right hands, he throws it, cracks Hagler right on the chin, throws again, cracks Hagler right on the chin, and then about 5 seconds later, you'll see Hearns cups his hand here. And I honestly believe that the shot before was the one that cracked the hand, because he cups it almost in pain. He's under a whole lot of fire, so you really have to look closely for this. And then, obviously, adrenaline kicks in, the fight is going on, and he's just like, to hell with it, I have to keep fighting. So he does keep throwing it, because Marvin Hagler's like a beast. He's got to fight him off. But I truly believe that he does actually break his hand. Whether it makes a difference to the outcome of the fight, to me, is irrelevant. I just mean I think he genuinely breaks his hand. Another question, and let's be honest, most of these questions are labelled at Hearns because he is the guy that got defeated, is, was he truly a middleweight at that point in his career? I think he was. And the reason I say this is that whilst he started at welterweight, he was very underweight at welterweight. I mean, he was really killing himself to make that weight. He probably performed best at light middleweight, but I think at middleweight he was a middleweight because he went on to super middleweight and he went on to light heavyweight. Yes, he was a small light heavyweight. He's 6'2", he can carry it. In his fight after Hagler, he knocked out James Schuler in 1 round. So his punch power was still significant at middleweight. So I do think that he was a middleweight. Another thing I'd like to cover is Thomas Hearns, the perception that he had a glass chin. No, it wasn't granite. I'm not going to say that. But I don't think it was glass chin, because if you look really at the bout, and I'm going to take you to another HBO video, and I'm going to try and put, again, in the description, HBO put out, and I say type this on YouTube, HBO Hagler-Hearns Jim Lampley. Type that in and see what you get. And it's a version of the fight with no commentary, just the audience, and you really see things that you don't normally see. And if you watch very closely, Hagler is landing on Hearns too. Hagler is catching Hearns with a lot of big, hard punches, and Hearns does not wobble once. And if we say, okay, Hearns has been knocked out in other fights too, when he got beat by Ray Leonard, firstly, I think he was a lot more weight drained than he should have been. And he was also knocked out late in the fight when fatigue had set in. And Ray Leonard can punch. So I think that to me doesn't have an argument. The other thing is they say, well, he got knocked out by Iran Barkley. Well, we know Iran Barkley can punch as well. And if you watch the replay on that fight, anyone could have been knocked out by that one. So I think Hearns, he hasn't got an iron chin, but he has a decent, it's not a terrible chin. And even when he's rocked and hurt, he can still fight. So, ask Juan Roldan, because he rocked him a number of times and Hearns finished him off in round 4. So I think that Hearns' chin is good. Another thing I'd like to add with regards to Hearns' chin, particularly in the Hagler-Hearns fight, is, as I've said, he got nailed a lot in the first round. He was getting worked over in the second round. But if you watch, as I said, that lactic acid has built up. He's tired. The pace has been just electric. He's gassing, he's fatigued. You'll see he's wobbling all over the place. And that's not even the punches landing. And subsequent sort of 3 or 4 punches before he gets stopped, you see when Hagler hits him and he kind of scrambles and gets turned around in the ring, he's gone completely lightheaded. The lactic acid has built up. His legs are all over the place. And the final shot, Marvin Hagler's accuracy on the final shot, if you really watch, he kind of leaps across the ring and lands that rear hand, or lead hand in Hagler's case, right on his chin. Brilliant shot on a fatigued man. I don't think anything wrong with Hearns' chin. Okay. So in summary for this particular bout, for me, the story of this bout, not just the pace and the excitement, is, to me, this fight was all about the right hand. And I'm going to look at it from this point of view. If you watch the fight thoroughly, I hope you do watch it straight after this, Hearns, he doesn't land the jab that much. Hagler gets under the jab quite a bit. In fact, Hagler pretty much negates Hearns' jab. He gets as close as he can. Hearns can't land the jab. Hearns is having success with the right hand. He's nailing Hagler with the right hand. He's throwing it, as we said, faster than he really wants to throw it. He's landed a few uppercuts in there. So he's having the success. So he's having so much success with the right hand. Hagler, on the other hand, so I'm going to switch in my southpaw stance. And I've always thought Hagler's left hand in the southpaw stance isn't that amazing. Maybe the fighters who fought him will say that it is. I've not found it that amazing. But his lead hand, to me, his lead hand is like 90% of his arsenal. That's 10% of his arsenal. The things he does with that lead hand, he throws heavy jabs. He throws uppercuts. He throws hooks. And the accuracy of it, it's like a straight rear hand. The way he powers that thing out, he just knocks opponents back. And if you really, and I say it again, look at the first round, he's catching Hearns with that lead hand like it's a rear hand. He's catching him with it, and the last shot, the finishing shot, when he goes all the way across the ring, charges all the way across at him, throws that shot from far away, and he catches Hearns on the chin. So, like I say, the story of the fight is the right hands, and to me, Hagler's right hand was the more valuable weapon in this particular fight. So what I'll end on saying is that I'm going to try and put some links in the description so that you can look at some of the videos I've mentioned in my analysis. I've got no problem promoting other channels and other videos through my channel because I'm a fan just as I'm a coach. I want you to watch these fights and learn. That's my goal for my channel. What I would also say as a bit of fun is watch some other Marvin Hagler fights. I'm going to say, we mentioned that obviously round 1 Hagler-Hearns is one of the great rounds in history. Watch Marvin Hagler against John McGarvey, round 6, great round. Watch Marvin Hagler against Sugar Ray Leonard, round 9, another great round. Great opening rounds that spring to mind as well, other than Hagler-Hearns, are Ray Mancini versus Art Frias. Watch that opening round, and also watch Alexa Arguello challenging Aaron Pryor. That fight, that has a great opening round. Once again, my name is Jason in Power PT. Please subscribe to my channel.